Welcome to a bonus episode of the Warzone Wrestling Podcast, or as I should say, the bonus series, Trading War Stories. This won't be happening every week, but when it does, we are going to bring you the best in wrestling talent. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, my fuzzy little friend, Damian. Damian, how the hell are you?
I'm doing really well, man. I'm excited to start the series off, Trading War Stories, going into one of my friends from my time as a wrestler.
Yes, he is the current 3WA Extreme Champion, the former SWO Unlimited Uprising and Tag Team Champion, which makes him a Triple Crown winner. Formerly known as Leo Sweet, he is South Beach's favorite son, Mr. Merrick Miami. Merrick, how the hell are you, sir?
I mean, how look at this background. I am living, the summer breeze, that oceanic scent. I'm living. I'm living.
Absolutely, can't beat it, man.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, and thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're busy down there in the southern graces of Miami, Florida, down there. But we wanted to get kind of to know you because as long as I've known you, we've never really had one of these like wrestling conversations. You know what I mean? We've always kind of talked about personal lives, but we've never talked about the wrestling life itself. When did you even become a fan, man? Like, let's start back at the basics. How did you even come to enjoy this crazy business of ours?
Oh my. So this will really kind of show my age in a way to make you guys feel old.
I feel super old already.
So I actually started watching. The first match that I ever saw was Rhino versus Christian on a random Raw. I want to say sometime in early to mid 2004. Which is actually funny because, as you know, Damian, I hate Christian.
Christian, you hate him so much.
Not stand Christian. But believe it or not, he was the first match I saw. And I really don't know how old I would have been then. But I do know that I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And, then the week after that, I was flipping through the channels again and found Raw and again. And, and then it just kind of trickled from there. They, mentioned a comment about SmackDown, which I believe then was still on Fridays before it went to Thursday for a few years.
I think it was Thursdays at that point still. I think it was Thursday before it went to Friday. I don't know. They bounced around so much.
Yeah, it was Thursdays.
But of course, then I found SmackDown. And that was pretty much my bread and butter because at that point, like, I was still young, so my bedtime was very early, and then Raw still up on at 9 o'clock. So SmackDown was, my go-to, and still to this day, I'm a SmackDown guy. I just when I started watching, the SmackDown guys, like Taker was the SmackDown guy. Edge was soon to be a SmackDown guy. Later on, fast forward to the draft in 05, I was at the SmackDown where Benoit had gone up against one of the Bashams, and Taker had returned. And I don't know what he returned from because obviously, like, I had just started watching months before that, so I have no idea what the return was from. But that was the SmackDown where Orton had attacked Taker in the main event and announced that he was drafted to SmackDown. So that, I guess, would have been right when that Orton versus Taker happened, which is still one of my favorite feuds. Even as a young child at that point, I still vividly remember that feud just being, mind-blowing. And especially for being that age, having the gong hit and the lights go out and come back on and Taker's in the ring, you're a kid.
Yeah.
think, oh my gosh, this is great, until, obviously you get older and realize how they do it. But, it's good. So that's when I
Yes.
started. I started watching and really getting into it like late, maybe early mid '04, something like that.
Taker gets into the ring with superpowers. Doesn't everybody know that? Like, come on
Right.
now.
He is a dead man walking, a living zombie.
Yeah, I think at that point it was Taker coming back from, I think, an Orton attack. I think it was actually Orton had attacked him so he could be written off for a surgery, and he had just come back to be attacked by Orton.
Yeah, I have no idea. Um, it's crazy because I literally just watched that show right
Mhm.
before they got rid of the WWE Network, and I started from that show, uh, and watched like the following weeks after that, and it was such a trip down memory lane. Like, even, to me that was the good old days. To you
Yeah.
guys, the Attitude Era was the good old days, but obviously I was not old enough to know what was going on during the Attitude Era. But, so to me, that SmackDown era, I think, oh man, it was during the Eddie and Ray feud with Dominic.
Mhm.
It was Booker T's feud with Carlito. The start of Taker, Orton. It was just,
Mhm.
to me, when I look back, that's nostalgic. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, it's crazy to see how far wrestling has come since then. Uh,
Yeah.
both good and bad. Um, but I think that I started watching it at the perfect time for me. Because I was that age that I kind of, I still, it's real to me, you
Yeah.
know? And I was, blessed to have, a great grandfather that had, shared the same passion for wrestling. So, he enabled me like, we'll watch it next week. So, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started for me too. Was like my mom kind of got me into it in a way because she would watch, and then I would be in the same room, so I was watching. Well, then she started phasing out of it, and I'm like, let's watch wrestling, let's watch wrestling, let's watch wrestling. And so I just kind of bothered her for it, and then after a while, she just completely stopped watching outside of indie shows that like I started going to, or I was on, and then even after that, like even after I stopped wrestling, she still goes. Like you see her every month, pretty much when you guys are on. So it's pretty cool to like have the family that supports you, and I know I've said it before, but my heart goes out to you, man, because of the loss of your grandfather.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know how instrumental he was to you and everything. But
Yeah,
let's keep it.
he built us a wrestling ring in our backyard.
I was just about to get to that. I was gonna be
Can't beat
like,
that.
Of a trampoline, ratchet straps, cemented posts. We had our own six-sided wrestling ring, ropes and everything. It was awesome.
so it was six sided.
Yeah, it was six-sided.
So TNA influence there.
I guess. I mean, we just kind of wanted to, when we had the idea, with a circle trampoline, if you do four sides, you're kind of limited on space. You're cutting off a foot and a half from, each side of the trampoline. So, with six-sided, we kind of got the full base, for ring. And we kind of, like, at first, some of my friends, they were like, this is cool and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but I was like, I think we should have ratchet straps or something. I feel like we shouldn't bounce as much because I feel like it could get pretty dangerous. So eventually we added ratchet straps, and I don't know how many ratchet straps were underneath of this thing, but you could bump on it and take a bump, and you would still bounce, but you would bounce like maybe 2 inches. But it wasn't like you're bouncing and flying up over the ropes. But and it sucked. It sucked. Dude, Boxer straps were brutal. But looking back at it now, it was the most amazing thing, and I'm so glad that that he did that for us, and I'm so glad that we had that idea, and we actually, made that a reality because it's just funny, really funny to look back on.
So, how much of an influence did that have on you to actually, get in the ring now and get going?
So we really at that point, we had, half of us had that dream was like, this is what we want to do, and the other half, that were involved just kind of did it for fun, just kind of say, hey, I did this with my buddies. Um, but for, the select few of us that like this is what we wanted to do, like we thought we made it, we had our ring. Um, and it was different than the normal at that time. So at that time, I guess would have been 2011, 2012. At that time, the backyard wrestling community was, tires with some plywood on top and maybe a mattress on top of that, for a base. And we wanted something different than that. And then my great grandpa had made that ring for us, and it was different at that time. I mean, at that time we saw like videos on YouTube. People had trampoline rings with like small wire for ropes and stuff. You really couldn't do anything, but like when I tell you, you could run the ropes, you could jump off the ropes. We had turnbuckles. It was the whole shebang. Just the frame of a trampoline, and it was so different at the time. Um, but we really use that to kind of our advantage, I'd say, because what we were able to do with that is, looking back at it now, we were able to figure out, our strengths and weaknesses on ring awareness. And, you know, even though we technically had no idea how to take a bump, we at least had some kind of platform that we could try to teach ourselves how to take a bump without killing ourselves at that age. And how to run the ropes and things like that. But it has influence a lot. I'm not saying that it didn't, but I don't think a lot of that influence came about until years later when we really like watched all of that stuff back when it was probably like 3 or 4 years old and we were like, wow, that was the time of our lives. Then I think it's when we were kind of like, this is our time.
Yeah, and like going back, I know a lot of the guys that came up with you and SWO, they were all pretty much yarders. Like, I mean, now the wrestling scene's flooded with yarders, but like you guys pretty much. How was that conversation with Wolfman, the owner of SWO? How did that come about to train you guys and everything like that?
To be honest, I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't a part of that conversation. I didn't kind of come in until a little bit later. Um, but you know, at that point in time, late 2014, early 2015, well, actually probably mid 2015, because that would have been my senior year in high school, when I met Wolf. Um, that was, a time in wrestling where, if you came from the yard, oh my
Oh
God.
my God, it was the worst thing in the world.
And even if you had already made it and you mentioned that you used to be a backyarder, it was shame, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And now, fast forward all these years, here we are, and you see so many indie workers and so many top guys now in the business that are backyard wrestlers from 15, 20 years ago, and it's crazy. And I mean, look at GCW. They have a show called
Yeah.
Pro Wrestling. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? And I think what it is, I think now it's becoming one of those nostalgia things, and everyone made the best friends backyard wrestling. If anyone listening has ever backyard wrestled, you know the exact thing that I'm talking about. You literally make the best friends, have the best times of your life. Even if you're doing dumb stuff and, you're getting hurt, the best times of your life. Um, but, that was pretty much when I met Wolf. Um, but I really didn't have any discussion with Wolf on training at that time when I had met him. He actually came to one of our backyard wrestling shows, believe it or not. It was really random. Um, but that ended up, sparking a conversation of I, introduced myself and he said, I really liked your stuff. And back then, I thought that was awesome, even though I knew I was garbage. Uh, and then a few months later, I was training, and a couple months after I started training, I was on live shows, and Leo Sweet was kind of born, and from there, the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, I mean, backyard wrestling, SWO was one of the first promotions that accepted yarders, really, because, I mean, hell, my first time refereeing was pretty much a group of backyarders at the dojo, and it was a 3-day taping. It was just all yard matches for yard titles.
Right.
And it's like SWO was kind of on the forefront of that. I mean, you even look at it now. You talk about how commonplace it is. Will Ospreay, the former IWGP champion, is sharing yard footage.
Yeah.
It's just so commonplace now, and it's like, okay, so now you're pretty much established as a wrestler. Leo Sweet comes up, Then you form a tag team with, I know, one of your childhood best friends, the Candy Kings, in Leo Sweet and Will Yum. How did that gimmick come about? Let's put it that way.
I don't know, honestly. I feel like everything up until the Candy King splitting was kind of like an on the fly kind of thing. So obviously, as my tag partner Harrison, he originally trained at OVW in Kentucky. And the plan was he graduated a year before I did. The plan originally was I was going to graduate, move to Kentucky with him, and also attend training at OVW, which was kind of like our little thing that we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then some things happened where he actually moved back before I had graduated. And once we found Wolf and we were training and stuff like that, and I was trying to come up with a name, and my middle name is Leonard, so that's where I got Leo from. And I wanted to be one of those guys that I kind of went, from a real aspect of my life, like a John Cena or a Randy Orton.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted it to be a part of who I am. So I took the Leo out of Leonard, and I don't know how we came up with, I don't remember how I came up with Sweet. I think it just kind of flowed and sounded nice to say together. And for those that don't know, Harrison's real name is William. Harrison is his middle name. So we naturally were like, this is perfect. Leo Sweet and Will Yum. Like, we came up with the candy shtick, and we ran with it as far as we thought we could. I personally don't think that we hit our peak with that gimmick. I think that's something that we could have went way farther with, and I think would have took us to places that we never imagined. But at the end of the day, we had some, disagreements on where things were going. So that's, ultimately when we decided to split up as a tag team. But looking back at it now, I think that it actually was for the best, because he went off to, kind of find himself, and took me a couple, years more to feel like I found myself. So, here we are. You even bringing that up is crazy, because I haven't heard anybody say the Candy Kings for at least, 2 or 3 years now, and it was 5 years ago. So
See, and the thing is too is like the new influx of fans that SWO had was just happening as the Candy Kings split up. So I think like that influx of people don't even know who they are anymore.
Right.
Because like I remember my first show with SWO as a ring announcer, we were not the crowds that we had when I left. We were having like 25, 30 people in the crowd. Now we get like 250, 300 people at shows. Like it's insane. But when you brought up the on the fly thing with the Candy Kings, do you remember the fucking nicknames that you used to come up with to announce that I had to write down on an index card, and it got longer each month that they came out? There were like 18 nicknames by the end of it that I had to say before I said Candy Kings.
And it's funny because I don't remember a single one. The only thing that I remember that I did, and people are probably going to be like, wow, you cared that much. Yes, I did. We actually, when we gave you our weight, I actually weighed one sweet tart and calculated how much that him and I weighed together in sweet tarts.
Yes.
And it was like, I think it was like 1 million. And
it was some long ass number that I had to say every month.
Yep. Sweet tarts. And it's funny because I mean if people don't know, now they know. That was the actual calculation of how much we weighed in sweet tarts. But it was just one of those things. We were young, we were extra, we wanted to be extra, so we were extra.
Well, not only that, you guys had a candy jar at your merch table.
and believe it or not, we were killing it. And just a quick little story about the candy for merch. So we actually did a show in York, PA, for Valor Pro Wrestling. I can't remember where it was. It was at a gymnastics center. We were actually on there with the Boogeyman of all people.
I was running that show. I was in the back on that show. Remember?
But we came out to the ring with the giant swirly lollipops, and we came out and I'm rubbing them down my abs and stuff like that when I had abs, and
Same.
And
I've always had a keg.
And Harrison's, licking up on his lollipop and stuff like that. We actually sold both of those lollipops that night.
Ooh.
And it was a cringy moment, but hey, we thought, hey, we can make some money off of this. If somebody's dumb enough to buy it, take it.
Well, and that's the thing too, is you're a graphics guy. You worked in T-shirts and everything like that, creating graphics. I mean,
right. Literally everything from the Candy Kings, from our gear, to our merch, to our wristbands, everything I designed myself. And even still to this day, like my ring gear, my T-shirts, my branding, my logo, my everything is all me. And it would be an understatement when I say it's very frustrating. And a lot of people think, oh, it must be nice. It is nice. I save a shit ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think people realize how frustrating it is because, as you know, I do my own freelance design work. So I'm not only designing stuff for myself, I'm designing stuff for other workers or local businesses and stuff like that. So some of the ideas that I might have for myself, I might realize it works out better for this wrestler instead of me. So that great idea that I thought I had for me that I was going to use one day, now I use it for somebody else, and I can't reuse that idea because then it looks like I just copied their gear.
Yeah.
Even though I designed it, still at the end of the day, I'm not going to be that guy to be like, oh, well, I designed it, so I'm just going to redesign it and make it my own. So it's very frustrating. But, back then especially, I was working a job making like $7.25 an hour, nothing ridiculous, just graduated high school, just trying to get hours just to have some kind of money to travel for wrestling. Uh, and I really didn't have the money to, pay somebody to make a logo or pay somebody to get all these shirts made. So, I would just do it myself. And I worked at a screen printing shop anyway, so I just kind of talked into letting the company make my own t-shirts, and that's, ultimately what we did.
Yeah, I think that company still makes all the wrestlers t-shirts at SWO.
The first company I worked for, they don't, but the second company I work for does.
Yeah.
We still have a deal with them.
Yeah, and that's cool that like you're able to connect all of that into SWO, like, and we're able to help all the workers there too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, I try to, like, I'm not in it for myself,
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the first guys in SWO, out of our group that had started in 2015 to really kind of jump on the merch wagon. Like, I would think I was the first one that had t-shirts on the merch table or 8x10s or something like that, and everybody kind of followed suit. Um, and I couldn't get mad at that. I mean, somebody had to start it,
Yeah.
and eventually everybody was making, at least $100 every night that we had a show. And to me, if that's because of me, like, I'm humbled by that, you know. And if it's not because of me, I'm still happy for everybody.
Absolutely.
Right. But shifting gears a little bit from the wrestling side, I also know another little personal tidbit that not too many people know. How did you get into Michael Jackson impersonations?
Oh God.
Yeah, I didn't know this part.
So shocker for everyone who doesn't know, I'm a Michael Jackson fan. I literally have him tattooed right here.
Yep.
Uh, so this is probably the shocking part to people, which probably whatever. So I actually hated Thriller, like hated Thriller.
The song or the album?
The song.
Okay.
And I really wasn't like a huge MJ fan. Like, I knew who he was. I knew some songs, like I knew Beat It, Thriller, stuff like that. But I don't know, something when he had passed away, um, which is actually, I believe,
Coming up.
12 or 13 years tomorrow,
Oh shit.
or when this drops. Uh, you know, when he died, something just kind of, I don't know what it was. I think I was in seventh grade. I think I was in that point of kind of your childhood going into your teenage years, where I feel like at that age you just have that, you look for that one thing to hold on to take you, to the next step of your life. And that had happened, I think, right at that time. And uh and I just went with it. I started listening to the music. And I mean, if you're not like a really big Michael Jackson fan, all the big ones, Billie Jean, Thriller, Beat It, Wanna Be Starting Something, all
Mm-hmm.
Eric stuff. But I started listening to, you know, the older stuff, the Off the Wall album, and all the other songs that everybody probably would normally just skip. And I found a lot of bangers. And even still to this day, there are songs that I used to skip over that I listen to now that are absolute bangers. And I'm like, how did I keep skipping over this?
Mm-hmm.
So that started that kind of obsession. I'll call it that. I'll admit it, I guess. Uh, Started in seventh grade, and it's just kind of just blown up since then, and still is a pretty big part of my life. I really don't impersonate as much anymore, just because I really don't have the time to with wrestling and stuff like that. But time to time at a wedding or something like that, I'll break out some of my jackets or something, just have some fun for a little while.
So wait, what you're saying is when I get married.
This is happening.
I'll be
It's
there.
in the book.
What happened?
Yeah, I was always
you
the
were
man
gonna
in
be
the
there
mirror.
regardless.
And to be frank with you too, that's honestly why I grew my hair out. So I started growing my hair out in like 2015 because I wanted the 1993 MJ kind of hair, and I started growing it out, and then it just got so ungodly hot because I was so used to just having a buzz cut. And so I still buzz the sides and the back and fade it, but I let the top long, so it kind of still has the longish hair effect.
I mean,
Well-
that's what I was trying for, and then I realized that I can't grow my hair out.
Well, if you're looking for a good cover and you haven't heard it yet, Chris Cornell's cover of Billie Jean is amazing. He turned it into a very slow ballad.
Who is it?
Chris Cornell,
Chris Cornell.
the former singer of Soundgarden and Audioslave.
Yeah, it's like
Sweet.
I mean-
I found it. I'll add it to my playlist.
yeah, I think it's really good. I know you're a little skeptical of covers of Mr. Michael Jackson, but
Chris Cornell is my favorite vocalist ever.
Brutal, man.
some of them are. Some
Not
of them
this
are.
one.
A real popular one is Alien Ant Farm's "Smooth Criminal."
I know you hate it.
I hate it. I hate it.
I know you do, but I had to bring that tidbit up because I was like, not a lot of people that are around now know it. Coming up,
Not a lot. No.
yeah. But going back to wrestling. You were Leo Sweet for a while. The Candy Kings break up. You start going as a solo act as Leo Sweet. Got a little bit of a heel turn or you stayed heel while Harrison kind of turned face and everything. But then you had this amazing opportunity to train with Seth Rollins a couple years back, and I never really got the full lowdown on that story about going out there. How was that, man?
That was awesome. So that actually would have been 2019. So actually more recent than not. So that would have been the Thursday before WrestleMania 35.
Okay.
And I guess it was probably like a month or two before that. Black and Brave, Rollins training facility, Merrick Brave, had made a post about, we're, for Mania week, we're gonna do, a training thing, send in your resume. I think it was like 20 or 25 people were only gonna be, accepted. And at that point, I was at that point where Leo Sweet was kind of doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was at that point. I was still in the chase for the SWO title, which was great. I mean, I was doing something, but I don't think that my mind was totally there or excited about it. And I felt like, screw it. I'm going to apply for this. If I get accepted to go, I do. If I don't, whatever. So I literally had no intentions. And I can't remember when I applied for it. I applied for it like that night that I seen the post, thinking, oh, spots are already probably filled up and whatever. And they got back to me within like an hour. And
Wow.
we're like, you've been accepted. And I was like, whoa, because I'm thinking, man, I get to go and have a seminar with the man who at that time, before they announced the women were going to be the main event, was going to be in the main event of WrestleMania 3 days later.
Right.
And even that to me was, mind blowing. So we went, and Rollins ended up being fashionably late by like an hour. But I understand it's Mania week. I respect it, because from all the stories that you hear about Mania week for anybody employed by WWE, it just sounds chaotic.
Right.
So not worried about that. So Rollins got there, a little bit later, and what we ended up doing were we ended up pairing off with, another person attending the seminar, and we had about, I think it was like a half hour, 40 minutes, something like that, to plan a match. And then we had the match in front of Rollins and of course everybody else. And then after the match, Rollins would, say what he liked about it, what he didn't like about it, and stuff like that. Um, and my favorite part of the night uh, was actually him kind of ripping into people, because he made it very clear he didn't care if you could do a double moonsault or a flying crossbody. He just wanted to see wrestling. He wanted to see your ring work, your mat work, your footwork. He didn't really care about all the flashy stuff. And three-quarters of all the matches were, springboards and crazy hurricane ranas and stuff that he didn't want to see. And the one that sticks out in my mind, I'm not going to mention the names of the people involved.
Oh, come on.
Oh, this is your chance.
I'm not going to do it.
Tell me off the podcast.
But they had this match, and don't get me wrong, it was a great indie style match. But it was just a lot of high flying stuff that he really didn't care about, and literally he was on his phone the whole time. And Rollins was. And after the match was over, he looks up from his phone and says, "Okay, well, when are you going to start the match?"
Wow.
That's brutal.
And you know what? And it's funny because back then, 2019, I could see where people would be like, "That's a dick." But
Yeah.
But when he clearly stated what he doesn't want to see, and you put on what he didn't want to see, he has every right to say that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And whether he said it to be a dick or whether he said it to be funny, I'll never know. But and that was such an amazing experience to me. And what I brought off to you off camera, Damian, when I messaged you earlier, why I wanted you to bring this up, was I've never told this story before. Uh, so there's a first time for everything. So at this seminar, we had a question and answer, and there were, again, some people that I know that asked the most ridiculous questions, which I'll tell you what they were. Someone asked, "Are you winning on Sunday?"
Oh my God.
Someone asked,
Jesus.
what does your Mania gear look like? Have you talked to Brock? Like,
You have like this golden opportunity to pick the brain of the guy that's going into Mania. At that time, was he world champion or trying to win the title?
Rollins?
Yeah.
Rollins was going after the Universal title.
Okay, so you have the guy that is the number one contender for the Universal title, and you want to ask him, "Oh, what's your gear look like, bro?"
Right.
Dude, what a
It's funny because I'm pretty sure that question did get answered, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he did show us on his phone what his gear was. But I think he came out at Mania with another set of gear. And I think the one that he wore the next night on Raw is the ones that he showed us. What a savage. But the point was, I asked the question, and like I said, I was at this period of time in wrestling where I wasn't motivated for whatever reason. And I had asked, have you ever felt like this this wasn't for you, or
Mm-hmm.
this isn't for you anymore? And if so, how do you just kind of clear your mind of that and say, you know what, I'm still going to do this. I love this. And I hope this puts this into perspective for anyone listening to this that feels this way right now as much as I felt that night. He said to me and everybody there, he feels that way every single night. Why do I do this? Why do I put my body through this? And he said, and every time he feels that way, he thinks of that one thing in wrestling that made him want to do this. And he said, every time he thinks of that one thing, he just smiles and he goes on with his day. And he said, every single time that you feel that somebody else is getting a better chance than you are, or you think you deserve more, never think you deserve, because at the end of the day, no matter how good you are, this business never owes you anything.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, but remember that one thing that made you want to do this. And he said, as long as you always remember that, you will always have that passion and that drive. And I think ever since that night, I mean, that's always what it's been for me. That one thing that has, pushed me, to do this.
That's great advice just for any part of life. That's awesome.
Right. Well, and why I wanted to share that was because it's not coming from me. It's coming from a former WWE champion, Universal champion, tag team champion. I'm pretty sure he's a Grand Slam champion. I think he's held every single championship. And one of the top guys, straight from his mouth,
Yeah. And like that's just something that everybody should find themselves in. Like, if you hate your job, find out one thing that you like about your job. Like,
Right.
I hate my job most days, but there is one thing that I enjoy about it, and like I mean that anything in life, it's great advice for life in general, and that's such a great story. I've never heard that before, and I'm glad that you chose this to share it on.
I don't think I haven't mentioned it on any other podcast. I don't even think I've mentioned it to really anybody outside of my close friend group that knew that I went to that. And I kind of kept that quiet anyway that I went to that, because it really wasn't for me. It really wasn't a like, oh my God, this is so great for you kind of thing. This was I need to do this for me to
Mhm.
get my head straight in that period of time of this is why I do this, and I needed that extra kind of like, you know, this is why you do this.
Right. It's that like slap in the ass almost.
Yeah, right.
Like that kick in the ass of like, hey, you love this shit. Like, go out and do it because you
Yeah,
love it.
exactly. Have fun. And and after that, for a short period of time, I I had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming up into 2020 was kind of where, even before like the whole COVID situation happened, I started to feel like go back into that like rut again, like, "Oh, I guess I'll put my gear on and go out here and do this, you know? Um, and then that's where I kind of like everything switched up, and I was like, let me just start with a clean canvas and start over.
Yeah, and going into that, like there was a training show or a dojo show per se that SWO put on a multiverse show, if you will, with Kid Magic, and he transformed you into a Merrick Miami. Where did the inspiration for Merrick Miami come from? What was, because I'll be honest, I haven't been able to watch a lot of the SWO stuff since leaving, to be honest, and I know I keep up with it, but I don't get a chance to watch everything. And what was the impetus of that show? What was it like going through your own multiversal change, and what's it like being a new character and like a new person almost?
Yeah, so the whole Merrick Miami thing, uh, like I mentioned, I just felt like it was time for a clean slate. Um, and as a lot of people know, I have this weird fascination with Florida, uh, particularly Miami. Um, and yeah, and I originally I had oh man, I had 5 or 6 different names with Miami. Uh, at one point, I wanted to use Mercado as a name. Was gonna be Miami Mercado, and then I was like, and then I did. Oh man, it was a jumble of words, dude. And I wish I had the list. It was like Merrick Miami, and then it was Miami Mercado or Merrick Mercado or just Zoe Mercado, and then I scrapped Zoe, and then it was somebody had actually pitched to me Mr. Merrick Miami Mercado.
Oh my god.
Like that's too much. That's too much.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
bit.
that's a lot.
Then eventually I went with Merrick. And Merrick came from my girlfriend and I had said if we ever have kids and have a son, we want the name to be Merrick.
Okay.
This is different.
Yeah.
Uh, so I thought, well, screw it, let's do Merrick Miami. And I was like, it kind of sounds better than all the other ones that I had anyway. And it sure as hell way better than Mr. Merrick Miami Mercado.
Quadruple M's right there.
So, I kind of I sat on that name for a while. I really wasn't sure if it's what I wanted to do, I spent so much time and effort on Leo Sweet and all the sets of gear and all the merchandise, all the money I spent to promote that name. And, and then COVID happened and I was like, you know what? I was like, at that point, it was still kind of the unknown.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know when we're going to be able to wrestle again. At that point, I'm thinking we're not going to wrestle for 2 or 3 years, if this is, this bad as they're saying it is, like I have no idea when we're going to be able to do this again. And that really pushed me to say, you know what? Let Leo Sweet die and start fresh because at the end of the day, there's going to be at least a year
Right.
period of
Yeah.
time before I can do this again. And I think we snuck in like 2 or 3 shows here and there in between
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know how we did, but we did, where I was still Leo Sweet. But I was in the process of getting new gear. I was in process of still figuring out the character. And honestly, it wasn't until one of my first shows that I was gonna be Leo's or I was gonna be Merrick Miami, but we ended up doing if I lose, then I'm banned from Triple WA, forever. So I said, okay, well let's do that stipulation. I'll lose. They never said that I couldn't come back as another name, you know what I mean?
That's
And,
true.
and then I did that, and then I think after that was the whole Kid Magic deal,
Yeah.
which that was my favorite brainchild that I've ever come up with for the whole Magic switcheroo.
So
Uh,
explain that.
and,
Explain that for me.
as soon, it didn't even click to me. I was told that I was going to be, working with Kid Magic. And it totally didn't even hit me at first. And I was thinking about, like, because we wanted to do something where we made that connection that I switched gimmicks.
Right.
But obviously, if I just come out as Merrick Miami, they're going to be like, oh, well, that's Leo Sweet. So we have to do something to make it different.
Right.
So I was eating dinner one night and I was scrolling through a post and I was talking to, the booker at SWO. You mentioned, oh, well, you're going to be wrestling Kid Magic again and blah, 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 blah. And it just like hit me. I was like, no way. I was like, we could have him do a magic trick and just do a couple camera cuts and have him change me to Merrick Miami. And I told the booker, I told him the idea, and they were both like, yep, that's it.
That's
like,
awesome.
we got to do. So I actually started that match as Leo Sweet. And as we got to the finish, he pulled out his, his magic wand and did this whole shtick. And, Alakazam, Alakablu, I change you, or something like that. And, does this whole, magic thing. And, when he came in, we did the cut, and I switched gear real quick to my new gear and the palm tree. And, picked it back up from here and came back and panned out, and here I am, Merrick Miami in the background, new gimmick, and I think it went very well, and so far, if there's some wood to knock on, I haven't really got that many chance of Leo Sweet or anything like that from the old stuff, so uh, I'd take that as a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And being a new character, being Merrick Miami, it allows you to kind of broaden your strokes a little bit. I know you are the 3WA Extreme Champion, and being that you're kind of a heel over there, but in SWO, you just turned babyface again, I do believe.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
And
yeah, so the way that I've explained it, just recently on another podcast, was there's some different vibes going on.
Okay.
So with Triple WA, 3WA, there's a little bit different vibes going on than SWO. See, SWO, I dig the vibes. At Triple WA, not so much, So I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make the vibes right and be all about me because, it has to be. Nobody else there is worthy of holding the title that I hold. Nobody there can carry that title like I carry it. Not even Matt Cardona.
And speaking of, you have gone after him pretty hardcore online. I saw he got a response from Matt Cardona actually saying, if your booker has the cash, I'll kick your ass.
Yeah. How threatening was that?
I mean, really? What do you say to that? What's your response?
Well, my response is, if that's the case, I'm gonna have to speak with my promoter this Saturday at 3WA and have a few choice words. I think that just because Matt Cardona's got a lot going on for him right now, I think he's forgot where he's come from. He's come from from basically nothing, just like I have. And he's come from chasing opportunities like I have been doing. And your response is, oh, well, if your promoter's got the cash, sure, I'll kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Let's rewind. I'm sure that when Matt Cardona formerly known Zack Ryder, challenged Dolph Ziggler in WWE for the U.S. title, I'm sure that Dolph Ziggler didn't say, if your promoter's got the cash, I'll kick your ass. You know, Ryder made a petition. Cardona made a petition. I don't need a petition, okay? I'm the 3WA Extreme Champion. I am 3WA, okay? So when I say I want Matt Cardona, I want Matt Cardona. I'm not paying for that. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I don't think I should have to pay for that. Because
Fair
at the
enough.
end of the day, I'm the one issuing the challenge. I'm the one who's chasing an opportunity just like he did 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And he earned his opportunity, and I think I've earned mine.
Well, the
Hey.
gauntlet has been laid down. Hopefully, Matt Cardona gets an earful of this and sees what Merrick Miami is up to. And, maybe it's not all about the cash. Maybe it's time for just a straight up fight.
Yeah, man. I mean, and for those that don't know, Matt Cardona is why I do what I do. He is my inspiration. So, come on. And I'm sure if anybody has ever had a chance to speak with the person and inspired them to do something and they have a response as such, it's gonna piss you off a little bit. It's gonna piss you off. And it did piss me off a little bit. That's why I'm saying, like, come on, Nat. Like, show up.
I
Show up.
mean, hell, you're a former broski of the week back in the day of the Long Island,
I mean,
the
come
Long
on.
Island IC.
Dude, it's 10 years in the making, this match. This match could be money. This match could be a draw. I'm telling you, this is the match that people want to see.
Hey, I'm here to see it. I already told you that if this goes off, I'm gonna be right there. I'm a Merrick Miami mark myself, so I gotta let you know.
I'll make the trip from Pittsburgh to wherever you're laying that match down. Cardona, don't leave money on the table, son.
Yeah, but getting back into the world of your career itself. I know with 3WA and SWO, those are your home bases pretty much. I mean, that's where you and I have had our interactions the most and everything. And what is it like? Because I've had to do the same thing. What is it like turning that switch off a little bit from being a heel one area and a babyface in another area? And they kind of share the same fans.
Um, it's I think I think 4, maybe 3 years ago, it was totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now, I think it's more of the norm. Because I also know a lot of guys that are on the same shows and they are, the roles reversed. Uh, and even, some of these top tier indie guys, on Impact are baby face, but on AEW they're heel, or vice versa. Um, I think it's more in today's wrestling world. I feel like it's more storyline based. I feel if you're invested in a storyline with someone as a heel, um, it's not it's not you being invested in them as an individual. I think it's you being invested in the story that really counts at the end of the day. Um, you have guys like MJF that you couldn't pay me to like him uh,
Agreed.
because
Truth.
and it's not because he's a bad guy, he's just that good.
Mhm.
Um, and that's one guy that I don't think we'll ever see as a baby face ever. Um,
We'll
if
see.
if it happens, I will be very shocked to see how they pull it off. But I like I said, I think it's the storylines you have to be invested in. And for me personally, as the person that is a heel and a baby face in different places, um, to me it's not really about turning a switch on and off. Uh, I think it's more of if you're booing me, if 85% of the crowd is booing me, I feel more comfortable being a dick.
Mm-hmm.
And if 85% of the crowd is cheering me, I'm out there having a great time, you know? And not saying I'm not having a great time when I'm getting booed. I actually have a better time when I'm getting booed because you just feel like I could literally just put my arms up like this and I'm hated. Like where else other than being either the president or professional wrestling can you do that and be hated?
Not many
Sure.
places.
You know? So yeah, for me, it's not. It's not. It's not about flipping a switch on and off. It's just kind of feeling the crowd. Um, for some guys, it might be. You know, I yeah
I
yeah.
was so bad at being heel, dude. I'm just a natural, like, I'm just like, I want everybody to like me. Please stop booing me.
See, I think if I were in it, I would be probably more comfortable in the heel role. I mean, when I wore a hockey jersey for the Penguins to a Tampa Bay Lightning game, I felt the best because I was just getting booed through every step.
See, I hated it. Like, I couldn't do heel work. I was so. The problem is I'm also so bad at being a heel. Like, I was not good at heat segments because I'm like, yeah, a lot of my shit's just like submission work, and that's not really baby face or heel. That's just me. I'm really good at getting my ass kicked. Like, that's really what it is. But one final thing I want to ask you, unless Brad has any other questions that he's picked up here at all.
Now, let's keep this rolling.
All right. One final thing I have to ask you is, what is it like when you? Because I've never had this feeling. I was never successful enough. What is it like to be a champion? What does it mean to you to be a champion? Some guys, it's just, oh, hey, it's storyline. It's whatever. And if that's your answer, that's fine. But like, I know a lot of other guys, it can be a lot more. You've held multiple different levels of championship. What does it mean to you to be a champion?
So my my uh my humble viewpoint is it doesn't really matter to me, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest. Um, because like you said, at the end of the day, it's storyline. We're here to put on a show. And whether that's winning a title and dropping it the next show, so be it. The the arrogant viewpoint uh, for me is I love it. Growing up, the dream, one day is to hold, the WWE title or at least a title within that company. So to me, whatever title I hold, like right now, like the 3WA Extreme title, that's not their world championship. But to me it is.
Mm-hmm.
To me it's worth more than the world title because I have it, you know? Uh so that's why, like, I try to tell people, like, you could have the cruiserweight or the lightweight heavyweight title or whatever, back in the WWF days with the light heavyweight title. uh One of the most hideous title designs I've ever seen.
Awful.
Uh, but for some of the guys that held that title, to them that probably meant the world,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I always try to arrogantly make the title that I have worth more than the title that is above the title that I have. Um, because I feel like if I give that title everything, uh, that it's going to be recognized more than the main title. And for example, uh, I'm sure you guys can attest. Uh, I'm a huge fan of The Miz, and when The Miz had the Intercontinental title for like the last 3 or 4 times, I cared way more about that title than I did the WWE or the Universal title because I wanted to see The Miz come out week in and week out with that title, making it the great title that it used to be.
Right.
And there's no denying that that title was a very important title, 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
And that's also inspiration to me. I mean, if I can make my title that's not the world title, mean more, I want people to come and say, he's the champion. I don't care if the world champion is the world champion or not. This is the champion I'm coming to see. This is the champion I want to see win. The champion I want to see get his ass kicked. This is the belt that means the most to this company, and that's for any company. So my advice to anybody that has any championship or is going after any championship or knows they're going to be winning a championship, treat that like it's the WWE title to you. Um, it might not go over well with some of the guys. They might think, oh, look at this guy, he's marking for himself. But at the end of the day, I'm telling you, with promoters and stuff, I believe that goes a long way because that shows them that you're willing to make the best out of any and all situations. And once you get that world title, it's going to feel so much sweeter because then you're going to know for a fact that you truly are on top of the world with that promotion.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great place for us to wrap this interview up. Merrick, Lonnie, thank you very much for joining us here on the Warzone Wrestling Podcast and Trading War Stories. Where can people find you?
All over the place.
Miami, apparently.
So finally, I don't know why it took me so long, but you can finally find me across all social media platforms at the same exact handle.
Hey,
There it is.
Merrick Miami. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. It was Leo Sweet. It was either Leo Sweet Pro or the Sweet one, and now everything straight across the board. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter is all Merrick Miami. So you can find me there. You can find all my merchandise at prowrestlingtees.com/diamond-merch. I'm actually going to be dropping some exclusive merch, which will be limited edition very soon. Some more details coming on that, which will probably end up being on my Facebook page. And if you're really invested, out my Twitter page, and I'm currently dropping some hints at some things. So you can go to my Twitter page and check out my latest posts, and you'll very quickly figure it out. So that's what's going on.
Awesome. Well, Merrick,
Brad?
Merrick, we want to thank you again for joining us for the inaugural part of our series, Trading War Stories, here at the Warzone Wrestling Podcast. You can find me on the Twitter machine, which is the only place I really hang out, as the only verified member of the Warzone Wrestling Podcast. That's right. Look for the blue check mark at Pedersen Reports. That's PEDERSEN Reports, just how it sounds. And you can also find the third member of the Warzone Wrestling Podcast, Sobes, on the Twitter machine at just_an_SOB, because he's just an SOB. Damian, take it away.
You can follow me at DMillerGames on Twitter, and you can follow the podcast on Twitter and Facebook. Twitter at Warzone Pod, Facebook, the Warzone Wrestling Podcast. Make sure you check out our TeePublic page as well. We just dropped some new summer merch line designs, so you can get them there, and they're still discounted when you hear this until the end of that day. So make sure you tune in as well on that. And until next Wednesday morning, we will see you all